We have a ton of big news stories in today's video, but we are going to kick things off with Ariya Daivari. By the way, timestamps in the description down below. Ariya Daivari joined AEW. He has a new faction called the Trust Busters with Slim J and Parker Bordeaux, also known as Harlan from WWE. However, today Fightful Select actually reported that Ariya Daivari will be working as a producer in AEW as well. He was also responsible for the women's tag team match this past week on Dynamite. With Ariya Daivari going to AEW working in a producer role, I actually think this is a good idea. Ariya Daivari produced some really good stuff in WWE. And honestly, for that reason, I think it's a good idea for AEW to do that as well. Same thing happened to Pat Buck. You guys know I talked about that on my channel as well. Pat Buck then got promoted last week. We talked about that on the channel. So if you guys aren't subscribed, make sure you guys do, because I'm keeping you guys up to date with everything that's happening in wrestling and then offering non-biased coverage as well. Speaking of AEW, Dustin Rhodes had some very interesting words to say about AEW talent who have no interest in being there. He's telling people, if your contract's up and you've had enough of AEW, go get the out. Yeah, so he basically says, look, if you need to move on, like, you got to move on, right? Maybe they'll do something different with you in WWE. Maybe they won't. But his point is actually pretty clear. If you're not happy in AEW, don't stick around. The good thing is in pro wrestling right now, you have two options that are really, really big. And then, of course, there's companies like MLW, GCW, Impact, Deadlock Pro Wrestling. There's a lot of places where you can go work. And honestly, it's not a bad idea to leave AEW if you don't want to be in AEW. Now, my biggest criticism is that AEW signed a lot of WWE talent and didn't necessarily do anything with them. Now, with Triple H taking over WWE Creative, I also want to reiterate, I don't want to see Triple H go off and sign a crazy amount of wrestlers. We saw what that did to NXT in 2020, and it was just not a good thing for WWE. And I think once both of these companies, free up some roster space, I think a lot more people will get better opportunities. So that is a good thing overall. We don't know exactly who WWE would pick up from AEW. We know Tony Khan recently mentioned Malachi Black and Adam Cole being with AEW until 2027, which is a very significant amount of time. But anybody in AEW who is not happy very well has an opportunity to go to WWE. I don't know if WWE will sign all of those names, but I do feel like if you're somebody like Wardlow, Jade Cargill, maybe MJF, maybe one of those names, WWE would have a spot for you and they would be willing to push you. Of course, with Triple H in charge, we don't really know what to expect, but I would think more than likely WWE will look at signing AEW talent. And just like Dustin Rhodes says, if you're not, if you don't want to be there, don't be there. Get out. And that's not a bad idea. There's a lot of money that could be made in AEW or WWE, and the fact that there's two very large companies is just a really good thing for the industry in general. Vince McMahon, again, under some more fire. Very, very interesting. SEC filing June 17, 2012. WWE and its board of directors announced that a special committee of independent members of the board of directors were conducting an investigation into alleged misconduct by the company's former chairman and chief executive officer, Vince McMahon, who obviously resigned from all positions in the company on July 22nd. With that being said, the company has actually found out the company determined that there were two additional payments totaling $5 million unrelated to the allegations that led to the special committee investigation that Mr. McMahon made in 2007 and 2009 that should have been recorded. And guys, this is just a very, very interesting time. Obviously, Vince McMahon is no longer in WWE, but it seems like there is more being uncovered. Now, it didn't specify what was the reason for these unrecorded expenses, but of course, people are talking about it. And you know what? With Vince McMahon gone, I don't see a lot of people paying a lot of attention to this anymore. I think a lot of people's focus is on the future of WWE. And of course, with the future of WWE, I think a lot of people are excited right now. So we're moving on from the Vince McMahon era. Triple H is here. Triple H is making major changes. And you know what? I think WWE is starting to pick up some momentum. And whether you agree or not, that's up to you. But I do think WWE is in good hands with Triple H. We're already starting to notice some small changes. And just some small changes have already improved the product compared to Vince McMahon's version of WWE. So ultimately, maybe this all kind of worked out. Karrion Kross potentially going to be competing for the World Championship. Well, according to Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer actually said that McIntyre versus Reigns is still going to be the headliner for Clash at the Castle, and it's really unclear when Kross will get his title shot. But basically what there is a lot of talk about is Karrion Kross being the one to bring a World Championship to WWE Raw. Now, the idea that WWE is going to split off the world titles actually makes a lot of sense. The USA Network reportedly wants to keep one of the world titles on their show. And, you know, Roman Reigns has had a hell of a championship reign, but I think it's also time for Roman Reigns to do other things. And I think there's a lot of people right now on the roster who could benefit from winning the world title. I don't think Roman Reigns needs it. I sure as hell don't believe Roman Reigns and The Rock needs a championship belt at WrestleMania 39. So if Karrion Kross is going to get involved in this feud somehow, which appears to be the case, I'm excited about it. And I think it's going to show a lot of people that Karrion Kross is a very serious contender just by the way that they had him return to the show. Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns at Clash of the Castle seems to be the plan. There's always an opportunity for WWE to do a triple threat match. But of course, we'll see how they go about it. I don't know if they're going to have Drew McIntyre lose in Cardiff against Roman Reigns. The pop he would get would be massive for winning. But of course, two things that you need to keep in mind, Karrion Kross, and then of course, Austin Theory, who has Money in the Bank. Maybe Austin Theory could drop Money in the Bank to Karrion Kross, maybe do a cash in that way. It's just an idea. We don't know exactly what the plans are, but there are plans for WWE Raw to have a world championship on their show, and there are plans for these titles to be split up. So maybe Drew McIntyre wins one, Karrion Kross wins the other, and hey, if Roman Reigns drops the belt to both of those guys, I think that is actually a really good thing. It's beneficial. And then, of course, when Cody Rhodes returns, and, you know, there's just so many different options for the world champion, but I like where this is headed. And that actually brings us to our final story of the day, John Cena. A lot of talk about John Cena, where we see him in the WWE picture. Right now, obviously, John Cena is doing a lot of things, you know, in terms of acting and stuff like that. But it's really cool because at the Comic-Con Wales convention, Cena actually talked about how he is unsure if he could break the record from Ric Flair's championship reign. He says it's a very difficult question. Like I said, I know I'm not done in the ring. I'm realistic with where I am in my life. I'm 45, and I can tell you from being a 16-time champion, it is very tough to win. The top of that mountain is a young man's game, so I'm not done in the ring, but I'm not certain that that is in the cards. We'll see. Stories yet to be told, because if I'm in the ring, I got a chance. I am just saying I've been there, so kudos to the young guys doing it. Now, there's been some talk about John Cena coming back for 1 or 2 appearances per year in the WWE. And of course, if John Cena were to win his 17th championship reign, he would therefore beat Ric Flair's record. With guys like Karrion Kross, Drew McIntyre, and of course, we got Cody Rhodes, potentially Seth Rollins. A lot of guys are being repackaged. A lot of guys are debuting again. WWE is shaking things up. Where does John Cena stand when it comes to getting that 17th World Championship? I don't know how likely it is, because he is right. It is a young man's game at this point. There's a lot of people who are on the come up, and you kind of want to give them an opportunity before John Cena. However, I do like the idea of John Cena winning the World Championship for a 17th time and then using that as a way to put somebody else over. Maybe that's Braun Breaker. Maybe that is Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. I don't know. Theory, right? Theory could be one. I think there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of stories that could be told. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below.